Within the lofted bends is another option called bend line control. You'll notice in this lofted bends, if I pull down this message, it'll give me a message about bend lines showing up. And effectively what it's saying is that if I line these up properly, I'll both get bend lines as well as the ability to add that bend line control. Right now you'll notice that this has smooth transitions throughout and doesn't give me any edges. And you won't see any connection points or connection lines except for the splits at the ends of each profile. So if I go into another part, I have two rectangles with fillets at each corner. And so each of these profiles has the same number of entities, and it has the same gap, symmetric about the same line. So we know these are relatively uniform. So if I choose the lofted bend tool and the two profiles, you'll notice two things. You'll now notice that these points are all connected by edges, and we have an option called bend line control. Once I flatten this out, you'll see two bend lines per radius, and that's coming from the option for bend line control. I can increase this as much as I want, depending on how many bend operations I want to include. And it'll both create the bend line as well as give me a bend line with instructions within the drawing. So if I save this out and create a drawing, I should see within the flat pattern the correct bend instructions. And you'll notice each of these is now added in. Lastly, within the bend line control, we can also control this by a deviation. So depending on the deviation of the two radiuses or radii, SOLIDWORKS will automatically infer how many bend lines it needs. So based on deviation, it adds 3 lines to each of these corners. So if you're working with a lofted bend that you want bend lines for, keep in mind that you need to have the two profiles match up fairly well, and then that bend line control option is going to show up.